Every country is responding to COVID-19 in a different way. And so we're seeing a range of approaches playing out in parallel. Let's focus on three now. Ros Atkins joins us live. Ros, so which three countries have you chosen?
Hi, Kasia. Good to see you. Well, as you've been saying, one of the most important factors in this pandemic is that all the countries are facing the same virus, but they're all handling it in quite a different way. So we're going to look at this through the prism of Brazil, India, and first Pakistan, because Pakistan is now easing its lockdown this weekend. Bear in mind, most countries are doing this only once their infection rates are falling. Not so Pakistan. The number of cases continue to go up there, but the Prime Minister, Imran Khan, is saying the lockdown has to ease because of the large number of people who just can't afford to continue living like this. Let's hear from the BBC's Pakistan correspondent, Secunda Kamani.
Initially in the country, there were fairly strict restrictions in place. Then last month, a number of industries and some small businesses were allowed to open up again. And now pretty much all small shops and small businesses will be allowed to reopen, although shopping malls will remain closed, as will schools and universities, and there remains a ban on public transport. Now, I think this was done for a couple of reasons, one of which is that when these lockdown restrictions were initially partially eased last month, it caused a little bit of confusion in some areas, and some shops that weren't meant to be opening up again just opened up again anyway, and it seemed a little tricky for the authorities to force these other small businesses to remain closed. But also it ties in with an issue that Imran Khan has been talking about from the outset of this crisis, which is that he says the poorest sections of Pakistani society, around 25% of the country living below the poverty line, simply cannot afford not to work.
Let's move from Pakistan to India. It started to repatriate hundreds of thousands of its citizens who've been stranded. Now, you might know India's been stopping incoming passenger flights for recent weeks, but it's now organising planes and ships to get these people home. The first planes left Dubai today. The BBC's Samir Hashmi is there.
They will be carrying 350 Indian citizens back home. Now, this is the first flight, the first evacuation or the first repatriation that's happening from this part of the world. And if you talk about the UAE, 200,000 Indians alone have registered to get repatriated. Now, the government is saying, the Indian government has said that they will be flying out 15,000 people across the globe in the next 1 week, and then they're looking at 200,000 Indians, which are spread across the world, stranded in different parts, in different countries, over the next few days. And the huge section of those Indians are actually stranded here in this country.
Now to Brazil. Its number of cases is rising fast. It's now reached over 125,000 confirmed cases and over 8,000 deaths. But President Bolsonaro is refusing to introduce a lockdown. So some state governors simply aren't waiting for him. They've started to close businesses, schools and public spaces anyway. Well, the BBC South America correspondent Katie Watson has spoken to the governor in charge of the country's wealthiest state, that's Sao Paulo. This is a man who's a former ally of the president, but has now imposed restrictions. Here's why.
It's amazing when you have two viruses to combat, the coronavirus and Bolsonaro virus. This is not moment for politics. This is moment to protect people and to give to these people opportunity to survive.
He would argue that he's looking after the economy, that people die of hunger, people die of misery, people die with no jobs.
To have a good economy, we have to have people in life. We cannot put economy first and the health as the second decision.
So that's the latest from Brazil, Pakistan and India. And as we're seeing across each edition of Outside Source at the moment, while historians in years to come will no doubt be able to draw broad conclusions about this global pandemic, at the moment, we need to keep looking at this story country by country, as each experience is proving very different. And if you want more evidence of that, you will find extensive global coverage of the pandemic via the BBC News website, bbc.com/news, or Kasia, people can download the BBC News app straight to their smartphone.
Yes, they absolutely can. And if they want to find out more about the clock that is behind you, they should check out your Twitter thread on social media, because a fascinating insight into exactly what that is about. I won't spoil it, though. No spoilers. Ros, as always, thank you so much.